So today is the 9th of February, and we have an opportunity to demonstrate with students in the class the configuration for part 2 of the team resources, the solution for module 2. And 2 of our students have completed part 2, task 1. Deanna, would you mind showing us your screen?
Sure.
So here you see on Deanna's system, and the name of your system is?
Virgo.
Virgo. That's right. So you're on Virgo. And what you've done is removed the other permissions for everything else, because this is going to be like a work folder for a project, right? A spare temp work folder for a project. And you'll notice Deanna has given herself full control, but she's provided the team, the team of peers, read and execute, and she's disabled inheritance. You'll see in the inherited from column, it says none and none, and she has ownership of that folder. So essentially, she has full control over that. And that's essentially what needed to be implemented. Now, if your implementation left administrators, domain administrators, creator owner in there in the mix, that's okay. But there are cases where students working collaboratively request and receive administrative access or root privileges for whatever reason in the troubleshooting phase. And what you don't want to do is trigger a condition where another student has administrative rights to this folder without having to take extra steps. So if another student with administrative privileges were to push their way into the temp folder, there would be pop-ups on the screen that says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? And if they answer yes, the system would automatically log either a change of ownership or the imposition of permission changes. And that's what we want. We want logs to be able to catch permission changes, especially when we're working a project. You have things that are working one day and not working another day. You want to be able to check the dipstick to see if, what changed since yesterday. It was working yesterday, now it's not working. Thank you, Deanna, for sharing that. The second task in the second part of our solution, Shanoa, would you mind sharing your screen?
Yep.
So Deanna set the NTFS permissions, and she would also continue to do what Shanoa has demonstrated here. So Shanoa has set up network share permissions, which are different on a very fundamental and significant level than NTFS file permissions, file system permissions. So she's configured the temp folder with a $sign to hide it. And you'll see that if she clicked the permissions, she removed the everyone default. We don't want everyone to see this. We want project resources on the local network, but if we ever have uninvited guests, we want to make sure that it's not just flapping out in the breeze and somebody goes, oh. And what's the name of your system, Shanoa?
Oh, I'm Pegasus.
You're Pegasus, right? So Deanna is Virgo, Shanoa is Pegasus, and she has project resources also. If somebody's browsing the local network, we don't want them to look at either Virgo or Pegasus and see the temp folder blinking away at them. This is called an attractive nuisance, and it kind of invites those uninvited guests to poke at it and take a closer look. So putting a $sign removes that from view. And then the permissions for network shares have been set so that only the team, only the class, her peers in the class can read the folder that she's shared. So that thank you, Shinoa. You can stop sharing. So that is a perfect and flawless example of how we set the permissions on the file system level and the network shares up in a best practice method, and that's part 2 of the solution. Now, for additional credit, each of these students has taken up the option for additional credit. They contacted each other and they requested that I set up a login script. And then they copied me on those email messages so I know what's going on. And what I want to do is to set up a login script for each of these students and then enable them and configure them so that their specific login will execute that login script and then seamlessly provide a drive letter. So the temp directory will be listed as the H drive in the home directory, right? H for home, and then the P drive for partner directories. So basically, when Deanna is looking, after she logs in, she'll see an H and it'll pull to her temp folder on her C drive on Virgo. Does everybody got that? It's her home directory. So it's on her system and that pulls to Virgo. But she's also going to automatically receive drive letter P from her partner, Shanoa, right? So the script will execute a simple net use command, and Shanoa's partner, Deanna, will have read access to Shanoa's temp folder to see what Shanoa's put in there. So it's her partner drive, right? And if Shanoa drops something in that drive, then Deanna will have access to it and vice versa. Once this is finished, to complete the process for additional credit, each of them are going to capture a screenshot showing drive letter H and drive letter P on their screen, and then submit that and name it seamless access, right? And the reason we call that seamless is if we allow each of these students to log into any of the systems used by any of their partners in this domain environment, these resources will automatically be connected so that they can get into their resources on their home system or from a partner directory, regardless of where they're connecting. And that's tremendous resilience. So if you're trying to solve problems and you can't figure out what's wrong, it won't be because your network is broken or your logins are barfed or anything like that. So what I'd like to do now is to connect to our main system for this purpose. It's a domain controller, and inside this system, I've just got to click on this to log in now. So the timeout on this is pretty severe because it's such an important machine. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
So this particular server is one of the domain controllers for our Groovy domain, GRUVI domain. And what I'm going to do is use Notepad in administrative mode, and I want to save a login script as a batch file. And I'm going to put it in a specific location. So what I want to do here is show you where we find this. We go into the Windows folder, and it's sysvol. And then inside sysvol, nope, we're going to back up, domain. Now I'm going into scripts. And can everybody see this Courtney1.bat?
Yeah.
So here's an example of a login script that would execute. And there's a couple of steps to the process, but what I want to do is create a batch file that will load this. And it's probably a good idea. Well, we'll troubleshoot and we'll test things if we have to troubleshoot. I'm going to go ahead and start Notepad. And when I start Notepad, I'm going to right click and run it as administrator. It's counterintuitive, but one of the safeties that's in place for privileged accounts in a domain is that when you're working with text editors, you have to do it and run them in administrative mode. And now, yeah, same difference. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to save this as a batch file, but I'm going to put it in the same place. And one of the neat tricks is that, well, we won't worry about shortcuts right now. So we'll go into the sysvol, into our folder again, groovy.local scripts. And I'm going to name this specifically for Shanoa Bedford, okay? So this is going to be her login script, and I'm going to give it a .bat ending. When I'm finished editing this, I'm going to make sure that essentially, I'm going to make sure that the file extension doesn't change. So Notepad sometimes will add a .txt to the end, and it won't execute that way. But I'm going to go ahead in classic batch file mode. I'm going to say @echo off because I just want a clean, quick blink of a command prompt to run when Shanoa executes her login. And then I'm going to use a net use command. Net use, and it's drive letter H, net use H, and then I'm going to include the UNC of her fully qualified domain name for the machine, followed by the share name on the H drive. So you're Pegasus, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm going to include temp $, right? Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to have a / persistent no on the end so that when she logs out, the drive letter is no longer connected. But now let's connect the P drive, right? So net use, all it takes is one character off and it doesn't work. Net use P, and then this time it's still no, Shanoa is asking for partner access to Deanna's machine. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So if Shanoa and Deanna are partners for their development project, it's virgo.groovy.local. It could be .net, .gov, .biz, .whatever. This one is sitting on Deanna's machine. And earlier, Deanna put a file in her temp folder. So when Shanoa logs in, if she clicks into the P drive, she should be able to see the exact same text file that Deanna put in there. And so here we are. That's the end of it. And what we're going to do now is save this And now we're going to make a change in Shanoa's. I'm going to leave that minimized just in case we have an issue there and we need to troubleshoot. But I'm hoping I've done this often enough. And I'm hoping that the latest versions of server aren't so different. So now I'm opening up Active Directory users and computers, and I'm going to find in here, Shanoa is on the STX campus. And if I double click on her account, can everybody see this?
Yeah.
So it's S. Bedford, right? And she's a member of, she's the member of the Crucian group. And the Crucian group in turn is a member of the CSC 420 group. So because she's on St. Croix, she's a member of the Crucian group. Deanna is a member of the Tomian group. And when we look at each of these campus groups, they in turn are members of the CSC 420 group. Now, what I want to do is open the profile, right? And I'm going to mention the login script here, but then I'm also going to put a local path down for her H drive, and I'm just going to point it to temp as well. So I'm going to make two changes here. S Bedford .bat. And I'm going to connect an H drive or home folder to Pegasus. I'm also going to make this entry here, .groovy, .local. And then make a $sign here, okay? So I have the login script and the login script entry, and I have a separate issue that says, okay, I want to make the H drive her home folder, so I'm going to get a little more intentional about that. And I'm using the UNC convention of naming the system name with the fully qualified domain name, but using backslashes instead. And I'm going to put apply. It's going to warn and it's going to say, hey, it wasn't created because you don't have access. And I'm just going to accept that. That's a normal thing. I also want to go back into my folder here and make sure that I'm viewing extensions. I am, and it didn't tack the .txt on the end of that, so that's good. There's one more change I want to make. When Shanoa logs out and logs back in again, what will happen is that she'll see a quick black square when the script executes, but then it'll disappear. And when she goes to log in, she may not log in and connect first to this domain controller. It could be that she connects to the other domain controller. So I have to make sure that all of the domain controllers in this domain are up to speed on the changes that have been applied. So I'm going to issue a command to make sure that's the case. And I think I did click apply to this, right? So if I go in here and I look at profile, good, the change persisted. That's always a good practice to do, is just to go back into a place and see if it took, right? Everybody with me so far? Any questions so far?
None at the moment.
So I'm going to use a special command that domain administrators know about. It's called rep-admin sync all. And it tells the domain controllers, hey, wake up. There's been a change. Synchronize this immediately. And that's a good sign. That means that the change about this login script has taken effect. So now what we want to do, we want Shanoa to execute a command on her side, and then we want her to log off and log in again. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Shanoa, can you please share your screen? I'll walk you through it.
Okay.
So one of the ways that you refresh domain changes, okay, you can say okay and then close. You can close the server management window. Now, what I want you to do is to open up a command prompt as an administrator, please. So just type CMD. There you go. Awesome. Run as administrator and say yes. And let's type this in. GP update, all one word, space, / force. Hit enter. This is actually a great command to include in a startup script and in a shutdown script. Oftentimes, there are changes on the domain level to reconfigure or to apply criteria to system accounts, user accounts, resources on the domain. And sometimes there are misfires that happen when people are trying to make stuff work, and it's because their server on the domain is kind of in a state of hibernation. So we made those login changes. And what we want to do is, you can go ahead and close this window then. So you see that the change now, this doesn't necessarily it doesn't necessarily trigger the specific an update in the specific criteria that I've just changed, meaning the profile settings on the Active Directory domain. But what it is going to do is it's going to make sure that Pegasus is still working, still connected, and still knows who the domain controllers are. So if it can respond to that command and then you get a successful, it means, okay, it knows and it's talking to the domain controllers. So let's go ahead and close this window, and then let's close your other screens. And what I want you to do is to sign out and then sign back in to your system, Pegasus, okay? No, not that. You want to go to the start menu. If you hit the X, what you're doing is disconnecting the terminal session, but you're not logging out. There we go. So if you right click that, you can just sign out. And that'll probably break the terminal. See, that breaks the terminal screen, right? So if you go ahead and reconnect and sign back in, you can share your screen after you are reconnected, okay?
Okay.
And what we will do, if this misfires, is we'll repeat the same process with Deanna. And I'm going to tell you the reason for that in just a moment. So okay. I was going to say you can click some other options in that screen and then install the certificate for Pegasus on your system, and then the remote connection will work a little better.
Certificate, but that still pops up. I don't know why.
I'm sorry, what?
I said usually it always pops up, and then I install the certificate on my system. So I don't know why it keeps
it keeps asking you. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you connected yet?
Can you see my screen?
No, I think what you're sharing is the remote desktop window. Okay. Is this your remote system?
Yeah.
Okay, could you click on File Explorer, please? Can you click on the word Pegasus on the left? On the word Pegasus. There we go. Does everybody see drive letter H, drive letter P?
Yeah.
Now, you'll notice that there's older connections from a previous class, I think. With system security, right? So what you can do is select the T drive and then just right click it and say disconnect. There we go. And then select the S drive and then disconnect. Those were from a previous class, I believe. The $64,000 question is, did Deanna share her drive correctly, her folder correctly? And if she did, you ought to be able to double click on the temp folder.
This one, the Virgo one?
Yes. Double click that. And if you open up Hello World, you should be able to read it. And isn't that exactly what Deanna put?
Yeah.
That is so cool. So there you have it. The partner directory for Shinoa works seamlessly. And all Deanna has to do to share stuff with her partner is, well, with any of her partners, is put it in her temp folder and they can read it. They can't change it. Like, try to change this right now. Yeah, won't let you do it. And it gets, yeah, that was a context sensitive kind of thing. Just try to change my hello there. Say, there you go. See if you can save it. Nope. If you try to save it right there, click save. It'll say, oh, do you want to replace it? Say yes. Oh, you do not have permission to open this file. See the owner or file of the administrator to obtain permission. So you can't save it there, but you can save it to your temp folder, right? So if you wanted to take a code sample and you wanted to work with it from there, let's say Deanna is trying to troubleshoot something. She drops it in here. And so click OK. And then let's save this to your temp folder. Save as, no. Oh yeah, well that too. And you can say hi world instead of, right? Yeah. So you would save. And that wasn't a problem because it's your temp folder on Pegasus, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is hit the pause button. We're going to pause recording, but we're going to go ahead and configure Deanna's security now, her login script. And then in just a moment, we're going to see if Deanna will see hi there, my dearest world, from her partner's directory. And we'll be able to do that really fast now. So instead of explaining everything, I'm just going to go ahead and do it very quickly. Deanna, you need to be ready to have a command prompt open to administrative so we can do that. And Shinoa, would you please stop sharing your screen? Okay, so I'm going to pause the recording and I'll go ahead and make the changes and then we'll share the screen on Deanna. Deanna, would you mind sharing your screen?
I don't mind.
You'll want to issue the same command in your administrative command prompt, GP update space / force. As soon as you get a positive result, you'll close the screen, you'll log out, you'll sign out, and then you'll sign back in. And you may have some stray drive letters from last season. Let's open up File Explorer and see if there are strays in there.
Okay,
Last
so
season.
exit the command prompt now.
Yes, you can.
Sure. And then go into File Explorer.
Yes, and let's click on Virgo and see if some some old. No, yeah, it's pretty clean. All right, so let's close this, and if you would mind signing out and logging back in again.
Sure. By disconnecting.
No, 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 you're gonna click the little mannequin icon at the top. Next to Windows System on the left, there's like a little profile of a head and shoulders, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, click that, sign out.
Okay.
That'll break your remote desktop connection, and that's the best way to break your connection to remote desktop or other server connections, because otherwise you're still logged in and there's only so many people that can be on there at one time, and then people can't get on because they logged in before. It's a long story. Go ahead and log in again then.
Give me 1 second.
And you can share your screen after you've connected with the login.
Okay.
You don't have to show the remote desktop connection process if you don't want to. And Shanoa, I'm probably gonna clip out that little portion that showed your specifics to connect, because I don't want the rest of the world to know how to bother you on Pegasus, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Because it shows the port and the IP address, right?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. I mean, somebody would have to watch the video and get to that point where they would go, oh, let's see if we can get Shanoa's attention. Yeah, we won't, I'll probably also cut out the part here where I'm explaining all that too. So, alrighty. Can you open up your file explorer? Can you click on Virgo? Magic. I see an H drive and a P drive on Pegasus. H for local home folder, but P on Pegasus. Would you double click on Pegasus? There we go. Oh, I see the folder in there that says bye, but I also see Hi World. Let's open that up and see if it's the same thing. Okay, I want you to try to change this as well and just save it. See if the same safety works the other way. And just save it with the same name. Oh, no, I can't do it, but you can save it back to your temp folder if you want. We can just cancel this out. Okay. So essentially, if you show Virgo with the P and H drive and you capture that screenshot and submit with your solution, Deanna and Shanoa will post additional credit. And I thank you both for being willing participants in a demonstration for how to take that a step further. Isn't it cool that all you have to do is log in and there's your stuff, no matter where you are? Okay, I'm gonna do something here where I stop the recording entirely. And we'll take a 60-second break, and then I'll resume the Zoom session and we'll pick up our review of adaptive SE models, okay? So let's take a minute or two of pause. Everybody get up and stretch. Thank you again, both of you.